Hi guys, and welcome to the Karen Krausen Photography YouTube channel. So today I am headed over to the Tiny Chapel, which is one of my favorite locations here in southern Oklahoma. When I first moved down to Oklahoma back in 2008, it was in a lot better condition. There were still weddings going on at this location, but that's just not the case today. But I'm going to go ahead and read an article that I actually wrote that appeared in the Medill Record on Thursday, November 8th, 2012. And this was during a time when I was the reporter for the Medill Record. So, Tiny Chapel closed down due to vandalism, rejection from museum. Martin Luther once said, "For where God built a church, there the devil would also build a chapel." Nestled away on the side of an old country road lies a small chapel named for its size, the Tiny Chapel. Even the old country road has been graced with the name Tiny Chapel. Tiny Chapel has a history that goes back 38 years in its quiet setting, with the birds singing and the breeze dancing across the land it sits upon. In 1974, W.B. Tribble had just finished completing his home on his ranch in Marshall County. Tribble had been trying to locate a contractor to build a small chapel for him just on the edge of his property facing the road. He wanted to build the chapel in memory of his grandmother and father. Word soon got around that Tribble was looking, and a neighbor at the time told Tribble a really great contractor lived just down the road on Durwood Road. Tribble approached Richard Parkhill and showed him a picture of an actual chapel. He asked Parkhill if he could build it. Parkhill said he could and brought in his friend Ted March to help in the building of Tiny Chapel. He had a picture of an actual chapel from up north somewhere. He told us that's how he wanted it. He had the measurements and everything, Parkhill said. Parkhill said Tribble had the chapel put together really well, and also that Tribble was a fanatic about the chapel. The chapel stands 10 feet by 16 feet, painted red with white trim, and a white steeple adorns the top. In front of the chapel, a walkway leads to the door. The walkway is in the form of a cross and has no steps, so that it is accessible to anyone with a handicap. 2 white stone benches, now faded and discolored from age and weather, sit underneath 4 large oak trees for those who wish to view the countryside or just to sit and pray. Stained glass windows are now boarded over for protection, as is the entry door. A lighted cross once laid on the podium, and a quaint altar holds an open Bible with the words of God facing the ceiling. The Bible had been donated by June Drinian of Independence, Kansas. 6 pews sit empty, waiting for lost souls to greet them. These pews had been donated to the chapel by the First Christian Church in Ardmore and were upholstered by Dorothy Scott of Enos. Troop 18 of the Ardmore Boy Scouts even painted the chapel at no cost to Tribble. The praying hands figurine that once hung on the wall was donated. An attic fan was used during the summer months, and an electric heater warmed souls in the winter. When sliding a barrel bolt in the chapel door and entering the chapel, Tennessee Ernie Ford's gospel music would begin playing, and the lights and the heater or fan would start. Dixon High School personnel painted and donated signs pointing the way to the chapel. These signs are posted 2 miles east and west of Dixon. More than 20 weddings have been performed at Tiny Chapel, and people from all over the world have come to visit the Tiny Chapel. Parkhill said he really admired Tribble for what he did. Tribble once wrote, "I have personally gotten so much pleasure from the chapel. I have received letters and cards of appreciation, but most of all, it is the nice inner feelings I have been blessed with." Tribble passed away in 2002, and the property, along with the Tiny Chapel, was sold to current owners Paul and Lillian Sturm of Pilot Point, Texas. Paul Sturm says when they first bought the property, everything was really great, but in the past few years, the vandalism has increased tremendously. "We couldn't risk keeping it open due to the fact that we don't carry liability insurance on it, so we closed it down," Sturm said. According to Sturm, there were many people who would visit the chapel and appreciated the chapel being there, but others wouldn't. Sturm described several acts of vandalism that has occurred since purchasing the property. The old guest book register was stolen, and each replacement has either been stolen or destroyed. The large Bible was thrown over the fence, and the flags inside the church were stolen as well. Even the box used for people to drop off letters and notes were stolen. The sign that was once in front of the chapel was stolen and thrown in the creek. When the sign was discovered, the Ardmore Police Department called Sturm to come and retrieve it. Sturm says he cannot get deputies to patrol or even check on the Tiny Chapel. The museum talked to us about it one time to move it there, but they wanted us to pay for it, Sturm said. Sturm was referring to the Greater Southwest Historical Museum in Ardmore. Museum director Michael Anderson said he honestly does not know if that is the case. Anderson recalls the chapel being offered to the museum and says it was turned down, but does not recall why. He went on to say that if it had anything to do with moving costs, that it could possibly be, since the budget may not have been able to cover such an unnecessary expense. We could donate the land and the chapel to someone, Sturm said, but we would always worry about someone being raped out there or worse. It appears that the tiny chapel has been a light for many and darkness for others, a place for crime. The tiny chapel is now boarded up and a gate keeps visitors away, but even the gate doesn't seem to deter crime. The gate has been bent, driven into, and has a large circular hole cut into it. No longer an open place for prayer and solace, the chapel stands alone with its bruises showing for all the world to see. The future of the tiny chapel is unknown, but in the activities that have taken place in recent years, there may be a comparison to what Martin Luther said. For where God built a church, there the devil would also build a chapel. Well, that's it for the article that I wrote over 10 years ago about this location. If you go on YouTube, you can actually find like a lot of there's a lot of videos that have been done on this chapel, and it actually infuriates me because most of the people that have made videos about the chapel that have gone out, they go out at night and they believe that this is haunted or there's some paranormal activity, and it's all hogwash. I did a very good job at thoroughly researching the property over 10 years ago in my mid-20s, and it was never constructed or built because of someone dying or anything like that. But it is really sad that it's in this condition today. I didn't realize it had gotten this bad. It wasn't near this horrid when I had moved down here many, many moons ago. But anyway, thank you so much for watching the video. And I hope to see you guys on the next adventure, on the next video I have. And until then, have a great day and get out and explore your local area and see what you can find. Bye, guys.